All right, here we go. This one's my fault.
Standing on that ledge, you think you're gonna fly. If you take that long last step, we'll have to say goodbye. Whoa, whoa,
Hello and welcome back to Beating a Dead Horse, home of the biggest tonal whiplashes in the world. As always, I am your host, Sean McKinda.
And I'm your host, Jackson Keller.
And last week, if you were with us, we talked about Minding the Gap, a movie that is probably going to stick with both of us for a long time to come. We had a broad, serious discussion about it. We discussed like intimate feelings with ourselves, our own life experiences, how it reflects us as great media does. It was a fantastic film. It's art. It was genuinely art. It's in the Criterion Collection for a reason. I mean, the Criterion Collection is its own beast to tackle, given that, you know, some of the movies in there aren't necessarily high art in the same way, but they're all there for a reason, and Minding the Gap has earned its place 100%. This week, we're talking about potentially the antithesis of Minding the Gap, and that would be Independence Day Resurgence. And before we get too far into it, I have one thing I would like to say. That's a beer, baby. I'm not doing this one without it.
Are you serious? Because I can go get one right now.
Be my guest. Fuck it.
All right, hold on. I'll be right back.
Ooh.
We got that stinky Miller Lite. We will not go into that good night. We will not go down without a fight. We're talking about Independence Day, too.
And just to underscore how serious it is, the fact that Jackson and I both popped a beer. For what's worth, I'm drinking a Platform Juice Shandy, a fruited Pilsner with pineapple and mango tonight.
And I'm drinking Miller Lite.
Hell yeah. But just to add context to how significant this is, Jackson, we've been doing this for some 4 years at this point, if not already very close to. And in that time period, the only time that either of us have had an alcohol around the podcast, we come into this like entirely sober. We want to put our best foot forward. We want to be as uplifting as we can. Like we don't want to be the people like, I'm gonna drink and watch a movie, ha ha ha. We did it for Leprechaun 1 as a themed episode, kind of a bit. That's the only other time.
That was a very fun episode. I'll stand by it. That may be not the most clever thing that a podcaster has ever done. It might be the least clever thing, but as a brotherly bonding exercise, it was wonderful.
That was a fucking great time.
Much more wonderful than watching Independence Day Resurgence.
Yes, which is now the honor of having the only podcast where we did not intend to have a beer while we recorded, but we are.
So this movie, I mean, Sean, you couldn't have given it a better intro. Like, we really couldn't have picked a better movie to follow up Minding the Gap with, because this is anti-art. This is like the inverse of art is Independence Day Resurgence. I don't think this very often. I literally sat there while I was watching this. Well, by this point, while I was half watching this and playing Doom on my Nintendo Switch. But,
which one? Like 2016, the original? Okay.
The OG.
Some good fucking shit.
It is some good shit.
Yes, I am distracting from the conversation at hand. Why do you ask?
Doom, the film, was more art than Independence Day Resurgence.
I wholeheartedly agree with that, because Doom the film actually had some creative ideas with how it handled itself and like how it presented characters and like had some twists to it. Yeah, Doom the film had ideas.
This, like I said, I don't think this way very often. So it's a testament to how creatively bankrupt Independence Day Resurgence is, that I sat there and thought all this money that went into making this slop could have gone literally anywhere else. It could have paid for literally anything else. Forget like building schools. Forget anything as high-minded as that. Like And forget even like funding another movie. Like that money would have been better spent on like catering a billionaire's party. That would have been a better use of money than Independence Day Resurgence.
At least someone would have gotten some nutrition from something.
Someone would have had a bite of that caviar and they would have been like, ooh, that was some nice caviar. That would have provided that person fleeting pleasure in this miserable world.
And we should clarify, because we have railed against movies before in ways that are potentially as harsh as this. But usually those movies are objectionable in their content in some capacity. Something like The Good Liar, which utterly broke me as a person. But that was worth staying sober for, because I was worth having a serious discussion about what made it so fucking terrible, what they did to that movie, the twists behind it. Don't watch The Good Liar. Go listen to our episode. Do not watch The Good Liar.
Do not watch The Good
stress
Liar.
that enough.
Yeah.
This movie it's almost so inoffensive, and that's what makes it offensive.
I have a new go-to for like bland, miserable blockbuster. It's this movie. This is like, I in fact, like one thing that I was thinking about is I thought this movie came out much more recently. This movie came out in 2016, around the time we started this podcast. It's so forgettable that it has already been swept away by time. Nobody remembers it.
Nobody remembers this movie even a little bit. I mentioned to multiple people that like we're gonna watch Independence Day 2, and they looked at me and said, "There's an Independence Day 2?" And it's 5 years old, people. Like, it is well within the frame of the people that I talk to's recent memory. It's not like I'm going up to a 6-year-old and being like, "Hi, we're gonna watch Independence Day 2. Wow! What's Independence Day?"
Are you also the 6-year-old in this conversation?
I guess so.
I love my baby toy.
That might be something I need to unpack on my own time. Not for the podcast.
My man's got to do the work. You know who didn't do the work? Roland Emmerich. All right. So, I'll say this, actually. I'll even say this, that if you recall, literally the only reason we're talking about Independence Day Resurgence is because we got done with Minding the Gap. We were like, what should we do next month? Do we go with a theme? Like, what do we do? We came up with a pretty good theme for the rest of the July, unfortunately sparked by Independence Day Resurgence. So it might be the one good thing that's come out of this movie.
It was a week too fucking late.
And, obviously, by the time this goes live, it'll be close to the fucking 4th of July, Independence Day. We already did the first one. We already talked about the first one. So I'm not railing on this as someone who hates the original Independence Day. I enjoy the original Independence Day for what it is. People remember and will continue to remember the original Independence Day for a reason. It's not a great movie. It's not high art. I dare to say that it's trash. But it's enjoyable trash. This isn't trash. This is like a hog slop. Like, this is just like, this is the cinematic equivalent of like a vlog uploaded by like a C-list YouTuber, just, filling time, just taking up bandwidth and throwing it onto the internet. Just content for the trough. That's what this movie is.
That's a fairly fair description, honestly. I should, I guess, clarify, if you haven't listened to our last year's Independence Day episode, go back and do that. It's a decent episode, I would say. It's definitely one worth listening to. But my thoughts on Independence Day were, at least in hindsight, as follows. I thought it was fine. I think that if I was a younger man when I watched it, if I was like in my teens, I probably would have absolutely fucking loved it. But having not seen it until I was 26, I found it to be fine. I don't think that there was anything inherently wrong with it. I don't think I would never even shame anyone who said I like the original Independence Day, because I get it. I get why people like this movie. I see what appeals to them. It just wasn't for me. So when you then take a movie that wasn't for me and remake it without anything that makes it worthwhile, oh boy, is it a bad fucking movie. Oh boy.
It's oh god. This was like, within the first couple of minutes, I was like, I was tempted to pull out the Switch. I think I made it like 45 minutes. I think is how far I got into it. Where it's like I can't do this anymore. I feel my life slipping away from me.
I honestly, I wrote it off. I think within like the first 5 minutes as well. Like honestly, I think I wrote it off in like the first 30 seconds.
I think I did too.
Because it opens with them being like, it's 20 years in the future and everything is fine. Everyone has been unified against this alien. And I went, all right, well, that's fucking boring. What the fuck are we supposed to do with this? And then it like just continues to explain everything. And there is almost no mystery to this movie. Like everything is so thoroughly plotted out in the first 10 seconds of the movie that it is just bereft of anything. It's so bad.
I think when it comes to Independence Day and Independence Day regurgitation, thank you, I'll be here all week. There, that's Independence Day Resurgence.
Oh God! Now you're gonna have to make me keep that in the podcast, aren't you? Fuck off!
You're the one who cracked the beer, buddy. I'm just following your example. So, Independence Day 1 has some virtues. It does. It really does, and its virtues are as follows: 1, still really impressive, iconic, I dare say, set pieces that still look really great, driven by practical effects.
Too bad that they just remade those sets in a different fucking CGI way, and it just is a hollow simulacrum.
So that was red flag number 1. I think even more than anything, the story, just the way the movie looked, like all the like D tier like Star Trek like look of the world, and everything being so like hunky-dory. Just again, all this slop is the word I'm going to keep coming back to. This CGI slop just like smeared onto the screen, looking like an amalgam of every shitty like grocery store brand sci-fi movie made in the past 10 years. Like I think as soon as I saw what the movie looked like, I was just like, oh no. Because that's the thing about the original Independence Day. The original Independence Day, it has, I'd say another one of its virtues is, kind of that macro pacing. It's got to build up. It grounds you in sort of the moment. And then, when it really lets go, it's a lot more impactful. There is an art to that. And in fact, I think that's
are you saying there might be an art of storytelling? Is an art of story? Has anybody ever said that there's an art to storytelling before?
I hesitate to use the words art to the storytelling because this is Roland Emmerich we're talking about here. However,
the first one has an art to its storytelling. It understands it.
It genuinely does. It knows when to. What do people are coming to Independence Day for? And I think this is what you either want what Independence Day 1 is going to give you and you just accept it, or like you're asking even a little bit more than what it's trying to do, and it completely falls apart because Roland Emmerich is not a good character writer. He is good at structure. Independence Day 1 is very well structured. People come for the explosions, people come for those soaring speeches. He knows how to build up to those things and deliver them when it's time. Like, there is an art to that for sure.
And here is a really good question then, because what the fuck did he think people came to Independence Day 1 for? The existence of Resurgence and the way its story is told seems to imply that he thought people came to Independence Day for its characters.
In a distant sense, if you want to blur the line between character and actor, people definitely come to Independence Day for some of the actors, which is why it's very strange to me that amongst all these like pathetic old man reboots that you would even deign to waste a second's thought on Independence Day 2 if you couldn't get Will Smith back. But here we are.
No. Will Smith, it's not that they couldn't get him back. Come on, Jackson. Did you pay attention to the movie at fucking all? He died off screen in a test flight to the moon.
He died on his way to his home planet.
Listen, Poochie syndrome is a real thing. What do you want? Actually, hang on. That's unfair to Poochie because Poochie did have screen time leading up to his death.
That's true. Poochie's death was objectively handled better than Will Smith's in Independence Day Resurgence.
Yes. Yes, it was. So if your movie doesn't have Will Smith in it, like let's say that, sure, you get the green light to go ahead anyway. The other cast of Independence Day is going to be Bill Pullman, Randy Quaid, and Jeff Goldblum. Those are the only three people that you really need to pull forward into Resurgence. You don't need to pull in the zany scientist. You don't need to pull in Jeff Goldblum's dad. You don't need to pull in Vivica A. Fox. And yet they do. And yet they do. And yet they all get weird fucking B plots. Fuck spoilers on this one. Just in general. Spoilers.
Don't you dare listen to this and still want to watch Independence Day Resurgence.
And I mean, if you want to watch it for like a bad movie, bad time, you're going to have a bad time because it's not a bad movie, good time. It just sucks. But like, if you're concerned that, oh no, they're going to spoil everything, there's no way we're going to be able to. So like, knock yourself out. Who fucking cares at that point? But if you're expecting serious spoilers, eat shit.
I say this as someone with empathy in my soul. I don't want another human being to waste even a second of their lives on this. You have better things to do.
So when the aliens attack, this is where I really just put my head down and went, fuck it, I don't give a shit about this movie anymore. Because when they finally attack, they introduce like 6 B plots in one fucking fell swoop. Like, I turn around and I turn back, and not only is there the A plot, there's also Jeff Goldblum, there's Bill Pullman, there's Vivica A. Fox, there's some fucking treasure trawling assholes out on the ocean, there's goddamn Jeff Goldblum's
I already
dad.
blanked out. I already like mind wiped the treasure trawlers from my memory.
And like, this is all established in about 30 seconds, and I'm like, why the fuck should I care about any single one of these fucks, let alone all of them? Jesus Christ. All right, I'm not going to call spoilers here, but like, I do want to talk about Vivica A. Fox here, and this is a good point to at least put the pause in the podcast that we usually do. So
I need to shill my book. It's called Kelly is Unbreakable. You can buy it on Amazon. You should have given that money to me.
I fully support this entirely. If you enjoy the podcast, at BADH_cast on Twitter, patreon.com/BADHcast. That's going to be going live. Actually, when you hear this, that Patreon will be live again. We'll be getting bonus episodes up and running very shortly. Keep an eye on that. And if you have suggestions, let us know. Please, we want to hear them. Next week, we're going to be doing something kind of fun, something kind of interesting, and we're going to be going back from the creation of the blockbuster and taking the highest grossing domestic film of each decade since the 1970s and revisiting them in a 5-week spread, starting with Jaws, a movie I've never seen.
I've seen Jaws a couple times. I saw Jaws in the theater, actually. It was a good time. It was good memes. So, yeah, I'm excited. I mean, I like these little, even if we watch a bad movie, when we make it a little project like this, it's more tolerable because you're able to like draw the connections, you know, and at least, you know, I know for sure we got a couple of solid movies on the docket.
I think we really only have one movie that we could call a bad movie, and it has some parallels to Resurgence. Oh, God. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, boy. We'll get to that when we get to that.
We'll get to that. Well, I mean, that's a more famous example because it is a higher grossing movie. But yes, it's very much... I mean, Resurgence is even worse than that. Even more hog slop than that particularly high grossing film.
So Vivica A. Fox, as I said, I'm not giving a spoiler warning. Fuck you, eat shit. Vivica A. Fox shows up in this movie for probably a minute of screen time, and that's if I'm being generous. She is there in a capacity where, admittedly, I forgot she was in the first movie. because she's not really a huge character of the first movie. She's essential to like kind of driving the plot forward, but she's not one of the characters that you really think of when you think of Independence Day. She doesn't have any broad speeches. She doesn't have any like big heroic moments. She is the everyman in that movie that pushes the plot forward in so many ways. In Independence Day Resurgence, she is a hospital worker, and then she dies in front of her son. She has a son with Will Smith from the last movie. I think the son is around. No, he wouldn't be.
No, he has a son. He has the son in the first movie.
Does he? I can't remember. Okay, so
because he promises him, he said, didn't I tell you I was going to promise you fireworks? It's like, haha, Will Smith, what a charming guy.
Oh yeah. He felt too young to be like in this movie. It was where I was getting at.
Yeah.
He looks younger than like 23 or whatever. He looks to be like 19, but clearly he is about 23. That does track. So anyway, she shows up and she dies in a collapsing building when the aliens attack. And this is where I went, fuck off, fuck you movie to the screen. Like, this was not a quiet fuck off, fuck you. This was an outward fuck off, fuck you. Because the son is like, no, mom, that's my mom that just died. And like, it's genuinely as stilted as, that's my mom that just died.
Especially because you can see her little CGI body ragdoll like a Halo.
Yeah. Oh, God. And like, that right there, when I didn't realize that was Vivica A. Fox from the previous movie, when I thought that was just a random person, I thought that was the shittiest fucking thing. And then I realized that it was Vivica A. Fox from the first movie and felt even worse about it because unlike Will Smith, who got the dignity, and yes, I'm going to say got the dignity of dying unceremoniously off screen, this poor woman gets fridged by being dumped down a building for just no fuck you. Honest to God, I don't think being fridged is even the right term because she is not a driving force going forward. It's like someone just asked the question, hey, what's up with Vivica A. Fox in this movie? Oh, we got her for 30 seconds. What should we do with her? I don't know. Throw her off a building.
Throw her in a hole. Have her tumble in a hole.
And have her son react in some capacity, but like, don't really dwell on it and just kind of move past it. It doesn't really matter to anything because it doesn't. It's never mentioned again. Fuck off. Fuck you.
I thought that we were gonna get another parent death scene after that with the dad, who looks like he hasn't aged a day.
No, he looks real good, honestly.
So that, good on him. But the one part that did make me laugh out loud was because we first see him. He's writing his book, trying to proclaim that he's like the hero because haha, isn't that funny? But then he's when the aliens land, he's randomly on his boat. And he just gets like swept away in the tidal wave and survives like a cartoon character. All the funnier with the contrast of Vivica A. Fox character from the previous movie tumbling in a hole,
saving a mother and child, like actually doing something heroic. And what does she get for it? Thrown down a pit. What does fucking Chucklefuck McValor stealing asshole get? A car trip with some weird teens. What the fuck was the car trip with the weird teens?
So like they were going to Nevada. He like hopped on the bus. I didn't get this. So where was his boat? Why did he just go to Area 51? Like,
oh my God, I hadn't even considered where his boat was. Oh my God, where the fuck was his boat?
I mean, if he was just Jay chilling in the Gulf of Mexico, or I guess that'd be the Pacific Ocean close to that side, that's fine. But, I mean, it's not that big of a deal, but it was just like, yeah, he didn't have a point at all except to go, oh my God, Jeff Goldblum, I'm here. I got a bus full of children. And he's like, Dad, you're going to ruin the plan. And that was it. Oh, Jeff Goldblum is wasted in this movie. Jeff Goldblum is always fun, but like, I mean, everyone here, they're just checked out. They're here for the paycheck.
There were at least one or two spots where I like actually laughed with the movie. Like the problem here, is that I don't remember what either of those spots were. It was legitimately like the smallest. If this was a heartbeat monitor, it was a flat line the entire time with like two little doot, doot in the middle of it. I don't know where those fucking parts were, but like it made me chuckle twice. So I guess that's something. I think it had something to do with Jeff Goldblum because of course.
Probably. I mean, he has his moments. He has his moments here, but like, yeah, I mean, for a lot of the time, like it's always nice to see Jeff Goldblum, but I'm not. I wasn't sitting there like, there's my man Jeff Goldblum. He's doing his shtick. He's doing it. I mean, maybe that wasn't his fault. Maybe it was just the fact that the rest of the movie and the rest of the cast. I mean, because Jeff Goldblum and honestly, the dad as well. Chucklefuck McGee, though he may be, only two characters in the movie have like an ounce of life in them.
Yeah, no, I mean they actually do have some push to them, and I do think it was me laughing at the dad, despite how fucking stupid the whole subplot was. It made no sense in the context of anything going on elsewhere in the movie, but like, yeah, I laughed once or twice at it. I'll give it that.
Yeah, and so like everyone else is just so, oh my god, little Thor is so bland. His little fucking buddy on the moon who's simping for the Chinese astronaut girl. Terrible. So
awful.
bland.
So fucking awful. God, that part killed me too. Oh my god. I would like to contextualize how I feel about this movie in that I don't particularly want to talk about Little Thor or his buddy or anything else or Will Smith's son at all. Like, they are just so uninteresting in the grand scheme of everything else happening in this movie, and they are the A plot of the movie. Like, they are supposed to be like the central thrust of the film, and I could give less of a shit about them. Nothing. I don't care at all. They're terrible.
God, like, I mean, when I just even try to think about what happened, like, it all just, even for the stuff that I wasn't playing Doom during, you know, which you could buy for cheap on the Nintendo eShop, you know, classic game, great game.
It's like $1.25. I think I've actually made this recommendation on the podcast myself in a other movie that was probably bad and mentioned that it is like $1.25 a lot on the Switch. You should pick it up.
I'll tell you what, if you're looking for a feature-length film, instead of watching Independence Day Resurgence, you should watch Tim Rogers' action button review of Doom. You know, he talks a lot about the history of Doom and the ways that it's impacted the industry and why it's still great. And there's lots of good bits talking about his childhood. And, you know, there's like an arc. There's an arc to this Doom review. I am invested in Tim Rogers and his bout with shingles and coronavirus more than I am in anything that happens in Independence Day Resurgence.
On that topic, if you want a video essay recommendation for me, you should check out Hazel's video on why we liked Elfen Lied. It's an anime that I've never watched and have almost no context for, but it was 2 hours and 12 minutes and deeply, deeply fascinating. And they definitely deserve the watch on it, especially because, as pointed out by Super Eye Patch Wolf, they're going to get absolutely no views for it because the algorithm is going to bury it. Otherwise, it's got a bunch of blood and anime titties in it. So unfortunate that, but you should watch it anyway. It's a really good video essay.
That Eye Patch Wolf's a good guy. You know, he'll do little things like that, like shout out people as charity streams. I like that guy. Yeah,
no, there's some cool people out there. There's some good video essayists that you should definitely check out instead of Independence Day Resurgence.
Back to Independence Day Resurgence. You know, one thing that I was thinking about, how I don't know. Like, this is an observation that I just made. It's not even like a criticism of the movie, but like, you want to know how I realized the movie came out in 2016? Because I didn't look it up before I started.
Okay, what you got for me?
I realized that the movie came out in 2016 or around that time when the president of the United States was a woman with kind of a Hillary Clinton haircut. Because you don't see that so much anymore. I feel like it's almost like a weird, I don't even want to say like trauma response, but something akin to that, where like when I see that kind of character who's clearly in some way, be it visually or, you know, whatever, like a woman president character sort of modeled after Hillary Clinton, all I can think is like, oh, If only they knew how bad things were about to get.
No, that is fair. You know what I was thinking about while I was watching this movie?
What?
Abso-fucking-lutely nothing. It robbed my brain of all processes.
Well, that's what I the reason I thought that was worth mentioning was like that was the only thing approaching like a thought about the movie that I had. That wasn't just like I feel like I'm snorting from a pig trough. Like you know what I mean?
I okay, to be fair, I did have a couple of thoughts about the film. As I intoned earlier, I mentioned that, you know, it talked about how everything is perfect now and everything's in harmony and there's no fighting or anything like that. My thought was, hey, let's explore that a little bit, shall we? That sounds interesting. And then like a couple minutes later, like, oh, the forward base on Saturn's rings just got wiped out. And I'm like, hey, that sounds deeply fascinating. Let's explore that, shall we? No, it was a one throwaway line and we're not going to talk about it ever again. Cool. That would have been an interesting visual to see or anything, but no. All right, eat shit, movie.
I mean, the problem with doing a sequel to Independence Day is that, like, sort of what you're talking about is, like, what if we got, like, a legitimate science fiction film? And that's not what Independence Day was. Independence Day 1 was, you know, probably the almost the platonic ideal of the blockbuster, and that it's like the story and the characters are there just enough to serve as a vehicle for the set pieces, but the story is basically like, you know, a 50s B movie blown up with like, you know, a huge, you know, at the time, like modern budget. And that's what people like about it, is that pure simplicity. Like the idea of making an Independence Day 2, especially without all the like actors doing their shtick, it's folly, because it's like nobody actually cares like what direction the world's gonna go in. You know, it was all it was all like a very workmanlike. You know, Independence Day 1 wanted to get a reaction from its audience, and it did that, and there was craft involved in doing that. So it's like I'm sitting here listening to this narration about the world, and I'm just like tuning it out because I know this is Independence Day, and I know that eventually they're gonna have a big dumb alien battle, and that's gonna be the point of the movie. And, you know, sure enough, that's where we get everything else with like a sci-fi setting is just dressing. And then we get some CGI, and it's like, man, you just can't, like, that kind of destruction in a post Man of Steel world. Like we're burned out. If you're gonna do an action movie, like you cannot get by on just cool visual effects anymore. You know, that age is past. That age died in the 90s. Like Independence Day was one of the last big like effects driven hoorahs. Like now, granted, there are specific exceptions where like
The Transformers movies, which wow, The Transformers 4 is basically just this movie, except for the fact that it beat it by 2 years.
I would argue that Transformers 4 even has more going for it in that Independence, like almost in that Independence Day 1 sort of way, where like, you know, I can remember things about Transformers 4, even if they're like schlock moments, like Marky Mark killing a man with a football. I laughed really hard at that.
Transformers 4 is a movie that will live forever in my brain for a couple of reasons. The football kill. I've talked about him popping a Bud Light on a car with a Victoria's Secret ad in the background as one of the most iconic scenes in all of film many a time, because it is just so fucking good. And also, in direct relation to Independence Day Resurgence, the scene where the Transformers show up in a big ship and suck everything up. And I was watching this in theaters with my dad, and I'd been ragging on it the entire fucking time. I was not like in a busy theater. Don't worry. I was not bothering people. But like, I was just like, this is the stupidest fucking movie. What the fuck is happening? What the fuck is happening? This happens. My dad leans over and is like, man, I can't believe they're sucking all these things up. Why wouldn't that pull the ship down? And I just turn around and look right back at him and go, that's the problem you have with this movie? I say that in entire reverence. I appreciate what you were doing, Dad. I love you. You're great. It will just live forever in my head. That was so good. And it's so relevant to this movie because it has that exact same fucking scene in it.
Every shitty action movie has that scene in it now. Like, but I don't remember which one. I'm sure there's a Marvel movie that has that same set piece. Like,
But not as directly ripped off.
no. There's usually some variation. I mean, Man of Steel had that with the terraforming, that gravity shit.
They love that gravity shit. It's real impressive. And all right, I want to talk about the gravity shit for a minute as well. I mean, more than I already am. Because the iconic scene, one of the most iconic scenes of Independence Day 1, and this might be pure speculation on my part, but it is something that I noticed and it bothered me greatly, is that a wall of fire exploding through the city after, the alien shoots the laser down and it just devastation. That scene was done by basically building a model of a city and putting it vertical and setting a fire from the bottom. Like, that's how they got that fire climbing look in it. It's a great little bit of trivia. They basically made a nod to that in that they lifted the city up vertically as fire crawled its way up it. Like, hey, I know that there's people out there that know how this shot was done. And look, we made it happen in the movie in the way that we filmed it for the first one as a practical effect. Isn't that cool? And no, it's not cool. The part that was cool about the last one is that it was practical. You're just being like, hey, remember Ferris Bueller? Remember King Kong? Remember Independence Day? I do! And on the topic of things that are fucking funny, you know what's funnier than Independence Day 2?
Oh, do tell.
Independence Day 3.
Oh! That's why we never see the body on Will Smith. They're holding out hope that he'll come back for that one.
I would like to be very clear and say that wasn't a joke. This movie so desperately wanted there to be an Independence Day 3. It's not even funny. I saw the seeds being planted about an hour into this movie that all they wanted to do was to release another Independence Day. They wanted their trilogy, and I can't take it.
Well, Sean, they didn't want the trilogy. They wanted the cinematic universe, because this is the 2010s. And everything's got to be a cinematic universe. Trilogies are old school. Trilogies died with The Dark Knight Rises. It's all about the cinematic universe now.
Can we talk about how stupid the idea of a cinematic universe for Independence Day is? Let's put aside Independence Day as a blockbuster, as like a shot, like a one-shot thing, right? Okay, let's pretend that, it makes sense for there to be a second Independence Day.
I feel like this is an extremely important presupposition because it already kind of does it.
No, it definitely does not, but let's pretend that's the case.
Okay.
Why would, for a third Independence Day, your reaction be, let's take everyone to fucking space and do a big space war? Not even space around Earth. No. We have to go to a far off planet and fucking recreate Avatar, James Cameron's fucking Avatar mixed with Star Wars.
Because there's nothing to this movie. Like, that's the thing, is that, like, with Independence Day 1, cheesy and schmaltzy and schlocky as it is, like, that movie's got a core, and that core
because the aliens haven't tried to mine it yet. Waka waka.
But no, like, there's a purpose, there's a goal to everything. Even if that purpose is stupid, which it often is, there is clearly a purpose. This is just, it's so blatant. So this is the most blatant example of, like, a nostalgia cash-in I think I've ever seen. Like, can you think of anything that's worse than this in that regard?
I can't. I don't think I can, honestly. Like, it is so clearly just ripping off every goal of the last movie. What was the goal in the first movie? Blow up the mothership to stop everything else that's happening by going inside it. Get to Area 51 and repel the aliens. What's the goal of this one? The exact same fucking thing.
Exact same thing.
But also protect EDE for whatever fucking reason.
Now the mothership is as big as a continent, though.
Wow. And they even had like the same thing where their weapons got more advanced than the last one, but they didn't work. So they needed to find a new way to make it happen again. Like the fucking same thing happened in the first movie where their weapons didn't work. So they needed to find a new way to approach.
I wish, they just went whole hog and had Jeff Goldblum pull out the MacBook again.
That would honestly been fucking stellar.
Like if you're gonna make a movie to suck your own dick, you may as well suck it to completion. Just make it identical.
I'm not even gonna comment on how horrible of a sentence that was and just say you're right. Fucking suck it to completion, baby.
It's it's not even. I mean, that's the thing is that I don't get the sense that this is even Roland Emmerich taking a victory lap. Oh hey, I remember when I was great doing Independence Day. There's not even that sad sort of Friends reunion air about it. It really does just feel what do we have?
Roland Emmerich.
We got Roland Emmerich. We got Independence Day. Yeah, that'll get butts and seats. And it didn't do that especially well either.
No, thank God.
I don't think it was a huge bomb, but it was certainly was not a mega success considering that nobody remembers it.
I was talking to my coworker who was apparently aware of at least some sub community that was so hype for an Independence Day 3 based off what they saw in Independence Day 2.
That's insane to me.
I said the exact same thing. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I mean, I was just talking, my mom asked me, what movie are we doing this week? I said Independence Day, and she's like, because I know she loves that movie. And I'm like, calm down. We already did the first one. We're doing the second one. It sucks. She's like, well, yeah, but I love that first one so much. And I'm like, well, that's great, Mom, but we're doing the second one. I wish we were doing the first one too. It would have had a better time, but here we are.
I would have too. And again, not a huge fan of the first movie.
I mean, we could have accomplished the same thing by just watching the first one again.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about that towards the end of my time viewing it. I'm like, we literally could have just talked about Independence Day 1 again. We probably would have had a more stirring conversation about it.
Probably. I mean, there is value in rewatching movies and that you catch other things that you might not have noticed and how they're set up and thematic ideas that might have shot under your radar the last time. Oh man, I don't know that there's anything in this movie except for two gay scientists apparently.
Oh yeah, he that because he does a sad when he dies.
Yep. You gotta bury your deeply asexual gay scientists who hold hands once. And that's it.
That's very weird because Roland Emmerich is openly gay. So that's strange that it would be like that.
Yeah, it's not good. I don't think that this is gay representation that people are looking for in this month of June. July when this comes out, but
I mean, we're recording it in June. We're recording it in June. Oh, and then there's that cringe African rebel stuff that's Chappie level, District 9 level.
I couldn't really unpack everything that went on with that, to be perfectly honest. I was fully prepared to gloss over that. I'm glad you brought it up because I do think it is at least relevant to bring up as a bad part of the movie. But the movie has so little to say about it beyond this is a weird thing that we brought in for no explicable reason. That it feels bad, but I can't fully put my finger on why. Part of it is that they open this whole thing and be there's no war and everything's great, and then they go to Africa with oh, here's this African warlord though. That's weird, huh?
Yep. There's also that weird feels like some kind of racist humor with the and of course he gets this dumb little Roland Emmerich moment where the warlord guy is I now respect you as a warrior, which is, I mean, cringe that they would write that. But even more so the earlier scene when they're oh, we're going to get on the ship and go against orders. And the one John Oliver looking guy is what about me? And he's surrounded by all the people staring at him. That felt pretty dang racist to me. Nice little racist joke in the year of our Lord 2016.
Yeah, it's ugly. And again, it's ugly in a very weird casual way that it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth without ever really being like overt about it. You know, it's a very subtle ugliness to it.
Yes. I mean, true to form, it's that kind of subtle ugliness that's in a lot of 90s movies. So, you know, glad that we couldn't ditch that, you know, while we're spitting this up.
You would lose the heart of fucking Independence Day then. What do you mean? So I have a question pretty much exclusively for you, because I actually
I love these questions. Yeah.
have an opinion of it that I think I can defend. The last movie that really riled us up like this was probably Cowboys and Aliens.
Yes.
You see where this is going.
Yes, I do.
Which is worse?
That's a good question. That's a great question. A couple different ways to approach it, because the opening scene of Cowboys and Aliens is very good.
It's very good, yeah.
Better than anything in Independence Day Resurgence. Like, you know, so strictly mathematically speaking, perhaps it might be Cowboys and Aliens. Overall, though, I think I pulled out the switch quicker on Cowboys and Aliens, so that's another metric you can use. I'm actually not sure how I would answer that one. I have to think about it more.
Allow me to pitch my own view on it then.
Yeah, sell me on your take.
So I think that Cowboys and Aliens is the better movie for a couple of reasons. One, while it is based off a comic, it is at least new to cinema and not rehashing an already told story.
There's a hook.
In the media of the language, or in the medium. It has that opening that's incredibly strong. Daniel Craig is still fun to watch no matter what. But I mean, in this case, you do have Jeff Goldblum and his father, who are both pulling their weight in at least some capacity. But I think beyond that, even if you pulled your switch out quicker with Cowboys and Aliens, I do think that part of that might be due to the fact that it is a sequel to Independence Day, and like you kind of want to give it a little bit more of a fair shake given how much you like the first one. But like, I just think that Independence Day is so much more bereft, especially because there is something that you can point to and be like, just watch that instead. It's better in every way, shape, and form. Whereas Cowboys and Aliens, it's like, this is a unique enough concept for the medium that you're not really going to find it anywhere else.
It's interesting because I think that Cowboys and Aliens is unquestionably more art. Independence Day Resurgence is completely artless. Whereas, like, you know, as you say, Cowboys and Aliens, it's got a hook. It's got a reason somebody might want to watch it. It's got a really strong opening scene. But it's not just that I pulled out my switch. Like, there was something really viscerally, not nauseating, but I had a pretty visceral hatred for that movie. Like a visceral boredom, as weird as it is to say, that I felt stronger there. But I think really they're kind of two sides of the same coin, because I think that Cowboys and Aliens was sort of the peak, like, blockbuster slop of its era, and Independence Day Resurgence is the blockbuster slop of, you know, at least the, I mean, we could call it contemporary, sure.
Yeah.
Because, with Cowboys and Aliens, it had a lot of that, like, I'm pretty sure that's a Orsi and whatever, Alex Kurtzman and Orsi. They're like, I'm pretty sure that's one of their productions. So it had a lot of that, you know, late 2000s, early 2010s, like Transformers, Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man sort of DNA, and a lot of the stuff that's miserable about that movie is that. Whereas a lot of stuff that's miserable about Independence Day Resurgence is more of the ills of the current movie media landscape. And in that regard, I think that the ills of the current media landscape are probably worse than even, like, you know, the Michael Bay Transformers. Although it's a lineage, you know, because, like, how do you get to something that's like this blatantly a rehash? Well, you know, Amazing Spider-Man 1 was not nearly as bad of a movie, at least, you know, I think, but that was certainly an important stepping stone to getting here, like having that, like, completely unnecessary, like, turnaround reboot, you know, like, so I mean, it's all part of a beautiful tapestry of bad.
That's a fairly interesting and articulate way of putting it, because I think that that's you're not wrong is really what it boils down to.
I think I'm with you, though. I think just by the metric of the fact that Cowboys and Aliens has some artistic merit, even if it's just the premise of cowboys and aliens being kind of fun, Independence Day Resurgence has zero artistic merit. So
Yeah. I mean, Cowboys and Aliens, again, it might be a bit of nostalgia talking for me too, but I mean, I don't know. I still think it's an interesting premise, and I think that there's enough ideas in it that are kind of interesting. It just gets really, really long in the tooth and boring more than anything.
yeah. The other thing I didn't like about Cowboys and Aliens was sort of how like it had that like late 2000s grayness to it. So visually, I think that film overall was probably uglier than this one. This one also was visually bad, but it was more of that like cartoony, overly CGI Marvel movie mess looking thing. So they're different flavors.
Yeah, I honestly think I would prefer the Cowboys and Aliens over this, because I think that the Cowboys and Aliens, while gray and gross as was the style at the time, was at least the fact of the matter is that it was a lot more practical effects for the most part. And I think that earns some points in my book. Whereas this, so much of it, I was looking at people being like, there's nothing there. There's nothing behind it. Especially that final fucking shot where it's just like the 5 or 8 of them or whatever the fuck it was standing in front of clearly a green screen as things are happening behind it. That left such a bad taste in my mouth.
God, poor Ian McKellen playing Gandalf in The Hobbit. This isn't acting. That poor man, he was he's speaking to the soul of every actor in Hollywood, every artist in Hollywood now.
Are we done here?
I think we're done here.
I've been Sean McKinda. Follow me on Twitter at Sean_McKinda.
I'm Jackson Keller. You can buy my book, Kelly is Unbreakable, at Amazon.com. And then follow me at Jackson J. Keller on Twitter.
Follow the podcast on Twitter at BADH_cast. We tweet out like updates and stuff if anything changes about that. Support us on Patreon, patreon.com/BADHcast. When this goes live, the Patreon will also be live again. So please go check that out. We got a bunch of really great bonus episodes on there that you should absolutely check out. We also need bonus episode suggestions, so hit us up with that. We will be resuming our shout outs to our stallions next week. As always, thanks to those that have used our theme song. It is Suicide, alternate take off the High Octane, Low Expectations, the Rumble Band, and you should go check them out however you can. Buy their music, stream their music. They're on Bandcamp, Spotify, all that good thing. Go. What are you still doing here? Go. Also, thanks to webviewslatersite.com. There's a little button of us in the corner that you can click on, but you should also check out the really talented people doing the really talented writing all over that website. They're absolutely wonderful people. You should really be reading. Next week, as I said, we're starting Blockbuster weeks. We don't really have a month. Fuck it. It's Blockbuster weeks. Starting off with Jaws. That was a terrible introduction. Whatever. Jaws. Bye.
Don't you go into the ground. Don't you go.